singing away, singing her heart out as she does. You've been in the local paper recently as well, Elaine, haven't you, for singing outside was it the care home? So
Yes.
yeah, I'd like to introduce Elaine and Sam, and if you'd like to tell us from the beginning, what happened to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, when you said I'm in the paper, I'm a performance coach teaching youths music, and I was Belinda Carlisle on Stars and I. So I sing for the United Survivors, the T-shirt, and I'm singing for them
Yeah,
tomorrow. We've got a protest. But yeah, they've been kind helping me. That we sang outside the social office last week, and that's where I met Sam. And we discovered that we both had the same social worker who I would say, stole my children, definitely. And I believe she
yeah,
stole them to adopt them. And I believe she was not really adopting them. She was going to send them to Huddersfield to a paedophile gang. There's been 17 went to court last week, caught. And from speaking to Jerry, it said that they're what they're doing is some social workers are corrupt. They're sending them to the paedophile gang in Huddersfield, going in a house, and they're being trafficked to Pakistan, and they're getting 300,000 euros a child. And this is what I thought she was doing even before I heard of this. I had a
yeah.
vision selling them to some guy in Wakefield, and they're going to an Asian grooming gang in Huddersfield to be trafficked.
So
And I
Elaine,
believe she's
Elaine,
doing.
tell us how your story began, though, because you had your children up until when?
Yeah,
When
well, we
did you
took
lose your
them
children?
the 30th of April 2018, so like just over 2 years
Yeah.
ago.
So do you want to talk us through what happened, what led up to that? Because as your neighbours have said, your children were always well looked after, and I know
Yeah,
Brian said he used to walk past the garden and everything. So what led up to you
yeah.
having
I
social services involvement?
even had 40 people's references vouching for me as a great mum. Some was a social worker and a pastor of churches, but the court didn't even look at the references. It was unfair to me, as if they're all in it. I wonder. But my dad even says they should have helped and supported me, the social, not been so quick to take the children. And the social workers didn't help in the slightest. They just made it more
That
difficult. And I had
that was how
12
they got involved.
bereavements.
Was that how they
My
initially got
mum had
involved? Because you were asking for help?
Yeah, because I was in hospital, my hernia strangulated. It was the size of a football, big football, and it strangulated. And I think that was from one of my daughter's cesarean. I think that's what caused it. And then they had to save my life with overnight emergency surgery. I was nearly dead, and there was two hernias that had put them on a metal plate. So I was in hospital 10 days and nights, and then got infected, and they thought that it ruptured because when I went home, I had no one to help tidy, and I was doing it all myself and had to go back into hospital. And the school had phoned the social, and they said, "Did she need any help?" And then they offered, and they said, "Well," I said, "Well, yeah, if there's any help." I said, "If they help," because it took me weeks to walk again. I said, "If they want to help drive the children to school, make some food." And the social said, "We don't do that sort of thing anymore. That's not what we do." So they wouldn't help me in the slightest, and ended up back in hospital. And then they started homing in on me as soon as my mum was in hospital, same time as me. And I had a lot of things stolen. So it was an unfortunate time. Enough happened to me in 5 months that would happen to 10 people in a lifetime. 12 bereavements, all my things were stolen. And then I was in a state of shock with my mum and everything passing away. It was horrific the way she went as well. That they accidentally killed my two chihuahuas 2 weeks after my mum passed away, and I was resuscitating Coco all the way to the vet. It was a very traumatizing time for me, and the socials seemed to home in on that weakness and just want to take the children. And they weren't looking at any positives. There's loads of positives. I mean, the children had not one late mark in a whole year for school, and they had 100% attendance. I had awards for their 100% attendance, not one late mark in a year. I had loads of positives, and the health visitor said no concerns at all. It was doing great, and it was full of praise. And then there's just one bad social worker who was like lying, manipulating, and I've said she stole my children, and she knows I've said that, and they just homed in on me and was unfair, and they tried to make negatives that weren't there. They were making up things, and the positives they just ignored. Nothing positive in their statements, and she was homing in on my children from the start. I mean, my daughter, one of the social workers that took her upstairs and said to her the first day she met her, she says, "We've got a new mummy for you." And she says, "I don't want a new mummy. I want the mummy I've got." So And then when I was asking about help for babysitters, they said, well, you won't be needing babysitters for much longer. And this was at the start, so they'd already planned on taking my children for adoption, because when the dad's family eventually wanted to help take them, they didn't want them involved. She just wanted them adopted. And she was gutted when they didn't get adopted. They went to the dad's family eventually, and supposed to see them once a month with a court order. But really, they shouldn't have taken my children. I was, as a great mum, I spoilt them. They were happy. All the Facebook pictures, all smiling. Really was good to them.
Elaine, how old were the children when they took them out of your home?
Yeah, 5, 6, and 8. So they're now 2 years ago. No, 2, 6, and 8. The 5, 8, and 10 now. And one of the 10-year-old on his own has been separated. They separated all 3 of them at first. I think they thought they could adopt them quicker, easier that way. And they were in many homes at first. The daughter was crying so much. She was in about 5 different homes in 3 weeks. It was, but they've homed in to adopt them. But seemingly, according to Jerry Hannah, it's not real adoption. They're just trafficking them to this Huddersfield place that some of them have got caught now. And that's what I thought she was doing anyway. I think she's even from that area.
Well, Elaine, I hear a lot of stories, and some recent as well, where the social worker's talking about adoption 2 months into the case without even any evidence against the mum. They trap you with signing a care order, like a interim care order, don't they? Or you ask for help and then they trap you. And like you were saying, they don't write anything positive about you. They don't take any of the positive remarks from anybody else into consideration. And the family courts seem to be corrupt anyway, with siding with the social workers no matter what. So but that, after the children were taken, what did they do to you after that? Because you've been through hell, really, haven't you? With
they tried to make me move to Norway. She wanted me out of the picture, and she was trying to make me see the children as little as possible. She's trying to get me out of the picture, really. And then they hadn't even visited my house for the last year. That the social, when they were still deciding what to do with the children, if I could get them back. And I had my whole house painted, the whole house and everything. And I'd done I did 10 parenting courses within that first year they took the kids. And I had all of them were distinctions over 95%. I worked really hard and paid a lot of money for them. And they just
doesn't make any difference, does it?
It made no difference. I tried my very best. And even when I still had the kids, I had star charts up and reward charts and extra homework from the house and all these extra things I was doing with them. And they didn't want to see it. They didn't want to know. I tried to show the social worker, look at the 2 breakfasts they have on a morning, look at the photo. Just how do we know that's now? I said, because it's got the date and time on the picture. And she said, don't want to see it. She wasn't interested in anything positive. They just were looking for the negatives. I mean, when she visited, spot checked me one of the days, I was making this lovely chicken dinner, and I had every vegetable in all the different pans, and she just happened to spot check me. And then all she was bothered about was the few crisps that was a crumb under the table that the kids had just done since they got out of school. I says, that's only been there minutes since they got out of school, and there was a few crisps under the table. That's all she was bothered about. She wasn't even want to look at the big dinner I'm making. She's just ignoring the good, looking for the bad. There's and lying and manipulating and catching me out when they got the child psychologist around. They on purpose, I believe, clashed the time so that I was in a meeting with the social when he was meant to be there to analyse me and the children. So then it was the same time, and they clashed it, and on purpose. And then they tried to mess that up and everything. They're just trying to mess up as much as they could, make it hard.
I think your story is resonating with a lot of people, Elaine, as well, because the dirty tactics that they're using with the Section 20s and they're finding anything. I mean, they look into your family. If they can't find anything on you, they look at your parents and into their backgrounds and use that against you. There's so many dirty tactics that they're using. Sam, you asked for help, didn't you? And I won't say too much. I'll let you say what you want to say, because I know things have been a bit difficult for you. But you asked for help, and they didn't want to offer you any help, did they? Correct me if I'm wrong in that, but until
the same social worker took our children.
Yeah, and she did. But until you got pregnant, is that right? When you got pregnant, suddenly they got interested.
I got put on child protection for the first time in my life. in June of 2018, they hit us like a ton of bricks. They were actually coming into my home. They absolutely tortured us. They give us no, like Elaine, they give us no positive. They never even looked at any positive. And then within a matter of 16 weeks, the first time on child protection, my kids were gone. But
yeah,
yeah,
and that seemed to tie in with you getting pregnant with the youngest, wasn't it? Because they weren't interested in giving you any support or deeming you unfit at that point. It was.
I was working with them. I was asking them for help. I was doing everything I asked us to do. I completed most of my child protection plan within the first 12 weeks. I'd done everything that I was meant to do, really. There was a few issues still there. I'll not just deny that, but everything I'd done on my plan, I'd made sure I'd done a good job of. And then I got a letter on the 5th of October of 2018 to say my kids were safe with us. I got a phone call 3 days before I went to have a section to tell us that the birth plan was John was allowed in the room with us and we were allowed to come home as a family. And now after that call, I got a knock at the door that asked us to sign a Section 20 for Maddie, which we didn't know what a Section 20 was. They basically said, if you don't, we're going into court for your babies. I was screaming, it was horrible. I've got a letter there to say that my kids were safe, so I was never going to sign our way. And then when I had her Monday the 15th of October 2018, and they were in court the 16th of October without us even knowing, to get a care order for her. And then they got issued proceedings on the other two on the Wednesday the 17th, and all three were taken that day. Well, I had to go back to hospital from there, but I went into the town centre to court in slippers. I was high on morphine. I was screaming because I was basically told there's nothing you can do when I got there. And then I had to go and spend a night with my baby in the hospital, which was torture. It was horrific. And then I left on the 18th of October with just my bags up on the morning. I had to walk home after cesarean. It was absolutely.
So and what they do as well, because I mean, fortunately, your children are with family members. I mean, that's it's not the best situation that you haven't got your children, but it's better than some situations that you know, when at least you know where they are and you know they're safe and you've got contact with them. But what social services do in the meanwhile, while they're judging whether the family members should take the children, is they destroy your family relationships, don't they? You turn the family against you so that you don't get, you know, they don't want you to have a relationship with the children once they've deemed you unfit. You're not fit for any purpose after that, as far as they're concerned.
They don't give you a chance. I'm lucky because, like Elaine and other people whose kids have gone into adoption and who've not, I am lucky in that sense. And considering what Elaine gets, I get a high level of contact. Considering, like, I'm mourn about what I get now. After meeting Elaine, I'm grateful for what I get. But it's only 3 with my little girl, but like, yeah, I could be worse. I'm luckier than other people.
I've seen mine 3 times in a year. And I'm meant to see them once a month. They're using the virus at the moment, but they should be speaking to me on the phone then. You know, it's like they just want to keep them. They've been. I'm grateful that the dad's families took them because they were nearly adopted, this close to adoption. So it's great that, you know, I still am a little bit in their lives, but I wish I could see them more. You know, I really miss them. And you see one of Charles' auntie, she's halved the 12 times a year to 6 times a year. So I think I might have to take that further. And she's trying to change the court order to half it on her own. So I might have to take that further. But when the social worker was doing my parenting assessment, she scrapped it halfway through. She didn't even do an assessment. It was so unfair. And I had some proof that a friend was there at the time, the day she scrapped it, and she was wanting to speak in court. But then the court didn't even give them a chance for my witnesses. It was all too rushed. And the day that I was given my final hearing, my dad was rushed to hospital the same time, 12 o'clock, same hour. He thought he wasn't going to make it that day and asked them to adjourn the hearing, but they wouldn't. I had to stand in the court like a gibber and wreck, wonder if my dad, because my mum had passed away, wonder if my dad was going to make it. He's 81 now. And they made me speak when I was so worried about him. He'd just gone into hospital that very hour, and I was meant to be rushed to hospital with him. And they made me do the final hearing, and so it was all unfair. You know, and I just didn't have the help, and they shouldn't have took the children. I was really good to them. It was so wrong, but I believe that she was doing it to make money. like to sell them to the trafficking gangs. I really think that's true, and I want to prove it.
Yeah, that's things like that are very difficult to prove, aren't they? Because, like you say, your children are with family, and I suppose you've got to be grateful for that. Like you say, you can still have a relationship in the future. But with Sam's case, I mean, it's quite too common a story, as a lot of the comments have been saying about you ask them for help and they're not interested, and then as soon as you're pregnant, you get a care order on the older child so that they can go in for the birth child, you know, the new child at birth. So a lot of people are saying we need to rise up against the machine, against this, and more people are coming out and telling the stories. And you know, I mean, you've got to be careful as well in situations like this, coming out and speaking. But like Katie Jane does, since she lost her children, it's every day, everything she does now is to fight for the children and fight against forced adoption and the corrupt family courts and things like that, raising awareness against it. So I'm grateful to parents like you two who will come out and speak about it, because it does open people's eyes.
I've been hoping and praying to find someone else that the social worker stole the children. There's now, I believe she stole my children, and I stood up in court and I said openly, she stole my children. This is a terrible injustice done to me. I was good to them. They shouldn't have been taken. And then I met Sam, and the same social worker stole both her children. And we believe there's a lot more out there where this same social worker stole their children. And I believe,
yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes it's like a postcode lottery, isn't it? I've had that conversation with Sam before about yeah, Katie's just going to cut in a sec, but I was just going to say that I had the conversation with Sam before about postcode areas, and a conversation with a young mum the other day, the same thing. It seems like everybody in that estate is targeted. But Katie wants to come in and say something. Did you, Katie?
I think it lived as well.
Yeah, just quickly. Hi. I'm another forced adoption mum as well. That's why I do what I do, because that's kind of what happened with me. I put myself in care in Germany. You know, they tried every dirty tactic in the sun, because I don't have a criminal record. You know, I've never been in mischief with the police. I'd come from a military background and a middle class background before that, and they just tried absolutely, well, they tried and succeeded in what they wanted to do with me, but it's what started me off on this path as well, so you're not alone. And if you ever need any help or want to get your voice out there and we can be of any help, you're more than welcome anytime.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Elaine, you've joined up with the girls in Newcastle that formed in kind of August with the United Survivors North East, and but prior to that you were in hospital. Do you want to tell everybody what happened to you and what they did to you, because this is unbelievable, really?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about going to the papers about the social. I think they put me in hospital to shut me up, to silence me. I actually believe that. I was
talk us through for those that don't know, because what I know of the story, we went into lockdown. You'd lost your children, you were feeling down, you were starting to pick yourself back up a little bit after all the loss and trauma that you'd had. So you decided to take your guitar out into the garden and
I sang in the garden. I got in 9 or 10 newspapers, and I think the socials panicked. Oh, she's in the paper, because even the children's aunt was panicking. She's so careful about mentioning the children now that you're in all these newspapers. I was on the radio twice. I was even offered to run a road show on 2 radio stations, one in Blackpool, one here, and I think the social might have seen I was in the paper and panicked, and it's almost as if they've contacted the mental health team, the CPN nurse, and said, let's just get her out the picture because she's in the papers now. And it was as soon as I went in the papers, they just locked me away and
so
said I had a
talk us through what they did.
There was not a thing wrong with me. I was totally well, and they tried to say, oh, we think you've got because you're singing in your garden. They said it's a risk with the COVID. Somebody had told them I was singing to 100 people, but the opposite me, there's flats, 48 windows, and 2 people were kind of hanging out some windows, and that could be 100 people, but it was the window, or I was in earshot of 100 people with the houses around me, but it wasn't 100 people in my garden. There was no one in my garden but me. So they totally got the wrong picture. And then they panicked and they says, well, we think you're a risk with the COVID, and we think we have to put you in hospital to get you out of the risk. And then because I'm a Christian, they said, oh, you're hearing God's voice. I said, well, not any different than any other Christian. and they went, oh, well, we'll just have to, they said, well, do you want to take these tablets? I said, well, no. I said, there's nothing wrong with me. I said, you wouldn't give a runner in a marathon a wheelchair if he's winning the race. I says, I'm totally well. There's not a thing the matter with me. And they said, well, take these tablets or we're going to put you in hospital. So I refused the tablets. So they put me in hospital for 3.5 months and force injected me and made me like a zombie, and in my butt, force injection. They were doing it to others, 15 of them, pinning them on the ground, making them cry, and they're all bleeding. It was just horrendous. It's like going back to the 1800s. And I even told my doctor, and she said I should tell the psychiatrist. It was just like they take away human rights. And it was the worst time of my life, 3.5 months. And I thought they were going to keep me in longer. It was like a quarter of a year, just when I was getting a bit famous, singing in all the papers, and they were doing all these videos of me, and it was really taking off. And then, but since then, I've written a new album since April, since this happened.
Did the police, Elaine? Did the police take you to the hospital then? Did they come and take? Did the police?
It was the mental health team took me in a white van, forced me against my will. They made me, and they gave me a section 2, which turned into a section 3, and I was nothing wrong with me. You know what I mean? They tried to say, oh, we think it's bipolar, a manic episode, because you're singing in your garden. I said, well, there's other singers singing in the garden, and I showed them when I was in there the video of me singing in my garden. It's totally fine. They said, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Why are you here? And some of them know I shouldn't have been there. Some of them do realise. But I think they were just trying to shut me up because I was getting in the paper. It's almost like this social worker, because I believe she contacted the school and targeted me for being a Christian, the Christian school the kids were in. I believe that she was in conspiracy. There's a really bad lady in that school. I believe the social worker and her worked together to steal my children. And then I believe that she's probably contacted the CPN nurse to try and lock me away in case I went to the papers about them. Still thinking about going to the papers about them. So
yeah, well, I know somebody else. I had Barbara on the other week. Sam, you know Barbara. She's been in a fight against trying to get justice with the police in Sunderland for a number of years now, and she got lifted off the street by the police and taken to hospital, and then they came for her the following morning when she discharged herself. They came for her and took her back and held her for the weekend, made her had a brain scan and everything. But this is the sort of thing that especially seems to be in your area, that you kind of collaborate with each other and try to prove that you've got mental health problems so that you can't fight back.
That's what I'm trying to say. I had when they were taking my children, a psychiatrist assessed me as part of the social thing, and he said she's got no mental health condition at all. It's just bereavement for the children. So I tried to, that was just 2 years ago, and I seen 2 psychiatrists at that time, and they both said she hasn't got any mental health conditions. So they were just framing me to try and shut me up, I think. I think it's looking that way.
Sam, you had issue, didn't you, with the things that were written, the lies that were told, and you know.
Oh, there's unbelievable lies told.
Yeah, same here.
But at the time, everything was hidden from us. Even my solicitor didn't show us things. It's took till this year till I've actually went back to them all and asked for papers, and because I kept lots of stuff while I was going through the proceedings as well. I got all my files from the council, and I have literally scoured the lot. I've found just lots and lots and lots of stuff that it's even made us have a bit of a breakdown, because I'm seeing it, thinking, what have they showed people? No wonder my sister doesn't talk to us. No wonder our husband doesn't. The things that's written in there, and they're going to believe the professionals, because in their eyes, professionals don't lie, but they clearly do lie.
Yeah,
and the fact that you're going through grief, as Elaine just said, you're grieving for your children. You're in shock because of everything that's happened. You can't believe what, the things that they're saying about you, and they use all that against you, don't they? Because you did ask them for help, and everything you told them, trying to get that help, stressing the fact that you were struggling a little bit, and you would always think that asking for help is the right thing to do, but what they do is they turn it around onto you, what you tell them, and use it against you, and then they go around your family and tell the family that how awful you are. Even Sam, your neighbours were told to stay away from you, were they? So that, or they threatened them to take the children, or terrible what they do.
There was loads of people just. My dad wasn't even allowed to have a voice in the end, because they said my dad was bullying my sister. because they were manipulating my sister, he'd seen through the social work because she'd lied blatant to his face, and I caught her out in front of him. So my dad didn't have no time for it after that. But my sister and her husband were still, and my dad was like, but as angry as I was in the end, because when he realised, he was trying to let everybody else see that they're like, look, I've seen it from your own eyes. And then it turned out that we were bullying them for trying to have a voice. We were fighting a losing battle, and I don't believe anybody can beat them until after it's all over. And then you sit down and you've got your head together. But some people might not even get their head together to look. And
this is the reason why we do what we do, because I think if there's anybody out there that's thinking of asking for help, or has had a situation with a social worker that made them feel uncomfortable or ill at ease, or they didn't quite understand what was going on, it's to raise the awareness for those people. Like you say, when you're going through it, you can't think straight, you're feeling the emotions of it, and it's afterwards when the dust settles and you kind of know what's happening, because it's all unknown to you at that point. You don't know whether you're going to see them again. So afterwards, when the dust settles, then you've got a chance. But then even then it's difficult, because then you've got to maintain some sort of contact with your children, and they put you under the fear of losing that if you fight back or you try to get justice.
Yeah.
When I still had before this decision was made, I brought forward people to take the children, like, because they were newly adopting them, and they on purpose failed them. And even when I got the dad's sister in, the social worker had her in tears. She was so nasty to her, and they didn't want them to have the children. They just wanted to adopt them. And then when I found out on the final hearing that was the children gone to their 18, I was a little suicidal, you know. I didn't want to live without the children. Life is, you know, they're everything. I'm daily brokenhearted every day. Every song reminds me of them on the radio. Everything, it's just like devastating.
Yeah. It's great people are coming together and fighting against it. I was just reading that message there.
We're hoping that
we hear about
social worker can get caught out for what she's doing. She's definitely wrong what she's doing.
I think there's more than her doing it.
Stole my children, definitely she has. And
I was talking to a young girl the other day, and she'd contacted me because they've taken her little child. They said it was because her family members were a risk, so she got her own place, and then they said she was a risk for no good reason. They put her address out there. There was lies printed, it's horrendous, because all her family members put themselves forward to take the child, and they ruled every one of them out. Even I think, I can't remember what profession she said. I think one of the family members was a foster carer, and they still ruled them out. So it is, and there is an agenda, and I think that social worker got promoted when she took that child as well. She'd even written about it in one of the reports.
Mine went on holiday for 2 weeks after they'd taken mine.
She doesn't even have her own children, does she?
No, she doesn't have no children.
A lot of them don't, though, because I think any mother would struggle, I think, unless you're completely heartless, or unless the child was truly suffering, could put children, let alone the parents, through it, but the children through it, to be split up from the family. People are just saying thanks for sharing your strength. But yeah, I don't think if you've got a maternal bone in your body and children of your own, you could destroy a family like they do on a regular basis. Most of these are just narcissistic, cold-hearted. It's like a competition to them.
I think anyone working with children should be made to have children themselves, because nobody will understand the pain unless the thought of it getting done to them. And there's nothing, I don't believe, that, well, losing a child or the death of a child probably is on par with it.
Nothing worse.
Yeah, yeah, they do, Dawn. They're terrible. It's the amount of stories I've heard where, you know, even social workers in the family have been turned down to take these children because they have an agenda. They've already decided, and then, like Elaine said, you've got to wonder, why are they so hell-bent on getting this family completely away this child completely away from the family? And why are they happy to place the older children with family members but not the youngest child? You know, they always want to take that youngest child for adoption. Why would they want to do that? You know, if you look at the definition of social work, their role is supposed to work with the family. If they have to remove a child, foster care is a temporary placement until they can be returned to family. But there's no plan to return to family ever in these cases. Unless these families fight for these children tooth and nail, there is never a plan to return these children. There's never any work done with the family when they ask for the help, or even when the children have gone. They won't even answer the phone to you or your emails once the children have gone. They've no interest then.
It's really corrupt what's happened, and it's obviously happened to a lot of people. It's totally corrupt. It's really wrong.
She ignored me. I texted her for 4 days, and she ignored every text. And then when I left the hospital with just my bags, I got home. I had a picture of her leaving the hospital with me baby. So she finally texted, but it was a picture to show us, and she said it was done out for kindness. I thanked her for it, and I said, "That's really nice, thank you." But she said it was because of kindness.
The same social worker we had, she used to phone me, and she would always mockery me. She would say, "Well, Elaine, you know our plan is adoption for these children." Ha ha ha. She'd say every time, rub it in my face. She would say, "You know that our plan is adoption." And she was like, she did almost make me cry every time. She would really, she used to really revel in it. She was having such
they try to break you down mentally, don't they? So that they can just say, look, she's mentally, to justify what they're doing. They'll say, look at her, she's a mess. Well, wait a minute, let me take your family member that you love dearly, that you gave birth to, and see how you feel about it. You know, you just got to hope that karma comes around, because I've heard far too many stories like yours over these last couple of years.
When the dad's family phoned and says, "We can take the children," she says, "How do we even know that you are the family?" And she wouldn't speak to them. She says, "No, we're not interested." And they went to court, and she says, "No, you won't even be allowed in the court. You may as well leave." And then when she had to assess them, she had them in tears, and she was really nasty to them. It was only when they got an independent social worker after a failed assessment did the auntie eventually get the children. It was just last minute turn around right before the adoption was about to happen. I'd gone to this Christian preacher, Sharon, she's called, when she prays things happen, and she prayed to close the door of adoption, and more or less the next day that happened, and then the auntie's got them now. And I do wish that I could see them more, though.
I think that's the key. I think you said something key there, Elaine, that I think people have more success if they've got the foresight, which we were talking about before, about not having that, you're going through too much emotionally to think straight. But if you get an independent social worker or an independent health visitor or whoever, if you can get somebody independent, and especially social work solicitors that aren't bought off by the council. Lauren's put together a clip on social services removal. It shows the impact of what it does to the whole family. Might be too triggering for the ladies. I don't know if it's too triggering, but yeah, you've got to find your own kind of, you've got to do your own research. You've got to get as much knowledge on the legal system as possible, and because they're all in the same trough, aren't they? They all feed from the same trough. The social workers, the teachers, the health workers, the police, the solicitors, they're all in it together. They all cooperate with each other, and if they don't, they get pushed out.
My Kafka's guardian, she led me to believe that I could trust her all the way through, and only this year I've just found out that she was involved in it as well. She's got dates on my phone, on paperwork, before she even knew me, before she'd even met me, and signed and put them into court for my children.
I'm glad you mentioned Kafkas, because I missed them out. They're alone to themselves as well. Even getting an independent Kafkas worker, if you can get one, you know, if you're ever in that situation, get as many independent reports as possible, because they may not listen to the you know, all the statements from the people that are on your side, but when you've got another professional, I'm sure, well, you can never tell with the family court, I guess, but It is, if they're pushing adoption so early in proceedings without even working with the family, without supporting the family, seeing the family deteriorate, watching them deteriorate while they're asking for help, and then jumping in when they know they can build a case against them. That seems to be what the social worker's role is these days. They're training new social workers to take children at birth. I mean, forced adoption in any other country, I mean, in a lot of countries, it's outlawed. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen because it's cruel for a start. And they don't tell you when they're going to go to court. They turn up and they say, you know, I think the other day, they were going to send the paperwork half an hour before the court date. Time.
I got mine at 4 o'clock on the Tuesday, and I had to be in court at 12 o'clock on the Wednesday to fight for my children.
No time to get legal help, no time to go through your paperwork with anybody, no time to prepare, nothing like that.
So in a room, in a hospital room on child protection, so I couldn't even leave anywhere. And I don't know how we expect us to prepare a case for 12 o'clock the next day when I didn't even have a clue what I was fighting against, because I didn't know what it was for until I got there.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, this is what they seem to do with everybody. They don't tell them about court. They can't prepare. They can't get the right legal support. They don't understand the paperwork half the time, and then they just turn up at court and they run rings around you. You find your solicitor that you thought was on your side isn't really on your side, and the CAFCAS workers just thrown you under the bus. So this is why it's so important to get these real stories out there, because these, like, your own families don't believe that could be true. The social workers wouldn't do that. You can't do that. Why would anybody want to do that? I asked the question, why would they want to take all these children? Well, when you see that they're floating them on the stock market, all these private care homes and everything else, and it was social workers that set up the foster group, made shitloads of money out of it. So they're all lining their own pockets in this and getting promoted, and the sick agenda is they're getting all of that through taking somebody's child, destroying the child's identity, destroying the relationship between the family members. And you know, that's part of the agenda, I believe, as well, is that they try to destroy as many children as possible because they're easier to control when they've got a split personality or they've been traumatized at a young age. And what's more traumatic than being stolen away from your parents? When
I still don't know to this day the real reasons of why they took the children, because I've got that many things that say different, they've got all different printing on them. I still don't know to this day what is the real thing that they've said. Yeah. But I know that it definitely is far from the truth, whatever was handed to that court.
Yeah, and I think for you, it's kind of trying to rebuild your family relationships, isn't it, so that your children don't suffer in the meanwhile, because they're separated, aren't they, between different family members. So it's hard for you as well, living so close to them, and you know,
it's torture. Like, it would have been easy to walk away and say, right, that's it, I can't do it anymore, but I couldn't, because I'd always see her. She's with the family, so I would always see her. And just being told of my own family I'm not trusted with me children, what they know fine well I am more than capable of looking after my own children. Not one of my children, any of them's been harmed in my care ever. And they
didn't let Dad have a chance either, did they? They didn't give him a chance to.
I begged him to go to his mum's with him at that time, or to stay at home with me and him, because everything was normal, nothing had changed. And knowing that they're coming to my house at 4 o'clock on the Friday, 4:30 on the Friday night. John's solicitor had already left for the weekend, and then John didn't meet. They didn't give John his court papers until the morning after when I got mine, and he had like an hour to meet his solicitor. So, and what was written on the papers, he never had nothing to fight back with, John, and neither did I at the time anyway. None of us did.
Yeah. So, you joined up with the girls from United Survivors North East, Elaine. How did that come about? They're a new group, aren't they? And they're doing great stuff. You're all doing great stuff up there, and it's also encouraging, like you, Sam, feeling on your own and isolated because of the situation. These groups really can be useful and supportive, can't they?
We're on at 1 o'clock at the Civic Centre. Let's change it to 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock at the Civic Centre tomorrow, and I'll be singing for the Newcastle just near the Haymarket Metro.
Yeah, you've got a demo tomorrow, haven't you?
Yeah, 1 o'clock tomorrow at the Civic Centre on the green area near the Haymarket Metro, Newcastle. So going to be there speaking for the children and everything. And it was so good when they went with me to the social office a couple of weeks ago where I met you and I met Sam. And I was like singing and they were like, they gave my story out and we were there. Yeah, it was really,
Yeah,
it was good. They're all supportive and they would help me. And as I say, Ailsa phoned the police today. We've given the name of the social worker because I believe that she's trafficking the children to this pedo gang in Huddersfield, and I think she wanted to do that for my children and get money for them. And I actually believe that's what she was up to. Some of the social workers are doing this, and I believe she's one of them, and the one to be caught.
I think as well they change your social workers around a lot, don't they? When you get a social worker, you can end up with 4 or 5 different social workers by the time you've finished, and then nobody wants to talk to you afterwards. It's all about getting the child, and then nobody wants to answer your calls. And I think that, you know, until these, what I keep saying is we need evidence, watertight evidence that would stand up in a civil court, and you know, to take these social workers, these CAFCAS workers, and all of these other professionals that dominate over you and fill you with fear so that you don't fight back, or that you know, they think they've got such an arrogance about them that they just do what they want. They say what they want and they speak lies when they want, and they get away with it because nobody's able to challenge them, because they move around, they go, you know, they're hard to pin down. But I think we do need to see some civil actions against them for the lies that they tell, really, and the abusing children and families. Can they video the demo so we can let it? Yeah, I think John Lawrence is coming up to Newcastle tomorrow. He was going to come and video the demo. I'd have come myself, but I'm in London at the minute, so I can't be there. But I'd love to have been there. But yeah, Great Britain's saying video it and put it on the channel so everybody can see. How can we work together nationwide to get the truth out? This needs more exposure. Well, it's just, I think people telling their stories, really, people being brave enough to show their face and say this has happened to me, because it's not just heartbreaking, but there's a lot of shame attached to it, isn't it? They make you feel like you're the lowest of the low, and that everybody's going to be looking at you like you've been vile towards your children when you really haven't. And they judge you on your lifestyle. They judge you because you've got your faith, your Christian faith and everything, and you talk about Jesus and God and stuff. And they judge Sam because of what social workers have told them about her. And you know, but the fact is, you both went to them for help. You both knew that you were struggling at that time, and you reached out for help. And because that's what we believe. We believe if we need some support with our children, we go to social services, we go to children's services. I don't even think it's known as children's services anymore. It's that vile.
I wouldn't advise anybody to get help off them, ever.
Really?
It was the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
And this is where we need to build our communities and our family back up, isn't it? This is where we need to strengthen our families and our friendship bases and be more together as a community. I think the more people in your community that have either gone through it, know somebody who's gone through it, or understand that it's possible to go through it, these are the people that need to come together and kind of offer that support. You know, when I was growing up, we all knew who lived in what house on our street, and if your kids were always safe because, you know, the neighbours would look out for you and you were always in a group of kids. I mean, we haven't got that freedom now, but that's what we're lacking. I think we've let them destroy our communities for long enough now that, you know, people would rather hear the worst about you and believe the worst about you than actually reach out their hand and offer you a bit of support where they're seeing you struggling. They'll stand and judge you twitching the curtains because that's a society that we've become, I guess. But I am pleased that more and more people are coming out, more and more people are supporting each other. You know, the children are the biggest cause that we can fight for. The freedom that parents should enjoy to bring up the children is the biggest cause that we should fight for in this country. Because if a family's tight around the child, the child's less likely to be abused. I mean, you hear any paedophile saying they wouldn't touch a child if they knew the father was around, because they're more fearful of the father than what the law would do to them. You know, this is their biggest fear, is there's a strong male presence in the house. So if that works for the paedophiles, it works for everybody, that family's a tight unit.
I think I was targeted because I was on my own with the children, and I was an easy target for them, especially when I was ill in hospital and nearly passing away. And then I was even in a wheelchair, like a mobility scooter, for like 2 or 3 months. And I had the baby on my knee, and they wouldn't even open the school gate for me. And that's when I phoned for some help. I says, could they even just open the gate so I could drive in instead of having to go in the mobility scooter to take the kids to school and back? And then it made my hernia pop because I was carrying the mobility scooter out the boot every day, because I couldn't. I've got a minuscule tear to my disc on my left kneecap, still waiting surgery. And the first few months that it happened, it took me months to walk. It was so bad, and you know. But then now I'm now I'm all right. It's not so sore anymore. I could have my children. You know, they should just have helped me, and it was temporary. And all the bereavements, I had to see 2 bereavement counsellors, and they said I was still on stage 1 of the shock. You know, I was in shock. But I'm starting to recover a bit from all that, and the health issues. It was temporary. They shouldn't have took the children. They just did nothing to help me, and they made it harder. You know what I mean? And you know, there's no one to help. It was just terrible. They were unfair. They just wanted to steal the children for the money. It's pretty much, it was all about the money for them. I can see that. And
this is what we've got to build, isn't it? We've got to build that support network, an alternative to social services, an alternative to childcare and things like that. You know, the health visitors and people like that. I mean, even when you're pregnant, they're pushing, are you depressed? Do you feel depressed? Do you know what I mean? They're always looking, picking at you, how's your mental health? And I think as soon as you say, you know, some of these mothers, they're frightened to death when they get becoming a mother for the first time, and they may say unwittingly to the health visitor or whoever they're speaking to that they are frightened and they don't know if they could cope, and you know, they're worried about this and that, and they, you know, some flippant remark can get put down on a record and then they're deemed unfit or mentally unstable. But even so, we talk about a lot as well that if you've had previous mental health problems, or if you've been in the care system, or you've had any sort of drug and alcohol problem, they'll dig that up and turn it on you as a reason to take your children. And I know some people still don't believe that that's the case, but it really is. And you're living proof that that's what they do, even to the point of locking you up in a mental hospital because, you know, you're getting a bit of publicity, and that's dangerous for them, because what if you speak about what happened to you when they should have been rallying around helping you, keeping your children with you, or at least getting them looked after until they could come back to you in better health. Then, you know, that is supposed to be the purpose of them, and we need people to be picking that up. And the fact that they either need to give the social workers a new job description that fits more to what they're doing, like child snatchers, or they need to review why they aren't doing what it states in the government description of a social work. Why aren't they doing that? You know, nobody seems to be picking up on it, do they? I think the House of Parliament is full of paedophiles and wrong-uns, really.
We need to investigate them, like investigate this social worker.
I think all of the children's services need investigations, all of them, because how many other mothers are out there suffering
so unfair
and haven't got a clue or where the children are, what they don't even know the names half of them because they've been adopted and given different identities. It's horrible. It's absolutely.
And when you speak to somebody that's never experienced it before but just gone through it, and you talk about the process they go through, like they come round acting as if they're your friend while they're gathering evidence on you, and then they start picking away at you and you know, twisting everything, and then it's just like you say, rabbit in headlights, isn't it? It's, you don't realize in that situation what situation you end up in. So who do you trust? Well, you build up your family relationships, and what's that? My foster home was never allowed in my bedroom, and I had to be stripped washed. And that's the other point, isn't it? Foster families. I mean, some of these foster carers are getting away with abusing children, being cruel to children, and they're getting paid for the privilege. Yet they're doing worse to the children that have been removed than they would have happened at home with the parents.
Yeah.
And that was your worry, Lane, wasn't it? That you know that in some areas the children get trafficked, they get sold abroad, and it seems to be blonde, blue-eyed 2 to 3 year olds are quite favourable when they come after your children. If it's not a newborn, then it's a toddler, blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl, 2 to 3 year old. I think that's a common thing as well.
Yeah. Yes.
So what do you girls plan to do now? You just fighting to get more contact with the kids and
yeah. I wonder whether to appeal in the future or whether to go to the newspaper about the social worker to see how hopefully the police will do an investigation on her, and if she's proven to be the child snatcher that she is, trafficking the children, if they can prove that, and then they might get the children back when they see that she stole them unlawfully. You know, hopefully it'll be a happy ending. I hope so.
Yeah. And I think if more people come out to the demos and speak to people like yourself, for one, they'll find they're not alone, and for another, you kind of can share information, can't you? Because as I was just about to say, that when you tell people that have gone through the process what they do, it's a step by step, isn't it? They bully you, they fill you with fear, they have you jumping through all sorts of hoops, they ignore anything good said about you. And then they convince everybody else that you're the wrong and they're right, and they should win the case. And it is about winning for them, because once that child's gone, they've gone into a different department, so they've no interest in talking to you after that.
Yeah.
No care for the child at all, really.
No, they're not bothered. Yeah. Because even when they took the children, they never asked me anything about that child, what it likes. They give it to total strangers for the first year, foster people, and they never said what's the likes, what's the dislikes. They weren't interested in anything about the child. You could see they didn't genuinely care for the children. They couldn't care less about them. They were just in the system looking for their winning and the power and the money. They're not bothered about the children.
My little girl was biting her fingers, they were bleeding that much. That's how much she suffered badly.
And cried and broke her heart. They just snatched her. She even wanted to give me a hug, and they pulled her back from that. She managed to give me a little hug, and she crying her eyes out, and they were standing in front of us and like trying to hide me. Like they were like trying to make them more upset. They just didn't care about their emotions. They were just like, they didn't care about the children. You could see they're just making them mockery. Wanted the money and the power.
I know the mother I was speaking to the other day, the social worker had stated that the child was making couldn't speak and was making barking noises like a dog, but yet they then reported that the child was able to tell them that the nana had slapped her across the face. So which is it? You know, she can't talk, but she can give you. And this is what they do, isn't it? They state that the child's taught them something, and these foster carers are complicit in this. I know there's a lot of foster carers out there that are really good. You're not included in this, so just exclude yourself. But you know as well as we do that there's foster carers out there that abuse children, and they're just in it for the money. And they're complicit with the social workers. They'll tell them the child said something because they need a bit more evidence against the parent, because what they've got wouldn't stand up in court. So they use the children against the parents as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Katie was saying about something about her son biting his nails as well. You know, what was it? Never bit his nails until his first night in care. Yeah.
With my little girl.
Your mine were wet in the bed and having nightmares when they took them. They were all right when they were with me.
My little girl
made them worse.
Yeah. And they don't take any of that in consideration, do they? The impact on the child. If that child's being abused and they're rescuing the child, why is the child so distressed at leaving the parent?
Yeah, it's true.
Somebody just said there what social services to a friend in the 90s still haunts them. My granddaughter was not on a CP when social worker found out my daughter was pregnant. This is when they targeted the family. My daughter immediately booked an abortion after they took her loved daughter. Oh, see, I got a parent telling me that her friend had caused herself to having a miscarriage because she was so frightened they were going to take that child. It's
frightening. All the way through my pregnancy.
These are crimes against humanity, aren't they? It's beyond disgusting. If you did to somebody, if you cruelly treated somebody like the social workers treat these parents, you'd be done for mental abuse. I'm sure.
Yeah.
This is what it pushes mums to do. I know, it's terrifying. It is. It's beyond words, really. And I'm just hoping, right, there's enough people come out in the last couple of years, because there has a lot of people now, they're getting on the street, they're talking about it. I think even some solicitors have you know, come on board as well, helping out, because it's just so wrong. It's organised child abuse, and they get paid for it.
Well, they take the
You know,
children it's not even facts. There's not even proofs. There was no proofs.
Yeah,
What one of my children's got NF1, the youngest, neurofibromatosis, means he's got tumours, and it gives them a delayed speech, like they speak a bit later than they would. And then she was saying, but is it the condition or is it the parenting? And they just chose, oh, it's the parenting. And I said to her on the phone, I says, it's all based on assumptions. There's no actual facts, but there's no neglect. It's like it's just assumptions. So they're able to take children, like with the criminal law, they've got to be facts, innocent to proven guilty, I think. But then with the family law, it's all hush hush, and they can take the children just based on assumptions with no proof, and it's wrong. It's because like there wasn't anything wrong. Should have took the children.
My guardian told me, don't look at any social services sites, don't read Google. You'll hear loads of bad words about like the guardians, the social workers. None of it's true, and I really, really trusted her. So I didn't read it on none of that until it was only when I was after it happened to me, like when things happened, I was realising afterwards. So I had to learn from them, like basically, but it was always after they'd done it to us.
Yeah, that's what they do. They back you into a corner. They keep the information from you. Then it's afterwards you're thinking, what the hell? Just a friend of mine was telling me her son was recently in the family court, and his ex-partner was lying about him being violent, and there were 5 counts that she'd stated that he'd been violent, but they had a recording of her saying after the event that where she'd said he'd never been violent with her, but she just wanted to come take him out of her house. And she was asked clearly if he'd ever been violent before, and she said no. But the judge turned around and said he would discount 2 of the claims, but keep the other 3, because she'd used the word choke a number of times, which she'd proved she was lying about in the first place. So he rightly stood up and said, if I was in a court of law, if a criminal court, and I was being accused of assault, choking somebody, you would have to prove that I'm guilty. But you can just turn around and say, well, 2 out of 5 will you know what I mean, and decide that she's half telling the truth when actually she's been proved to be a liar. And this is the family court for you. There's no adherence to the law. They're accusing you of criminal activity, but they're not dealing with it in that way. And they should have to prove that you've committed a crime if they're going to use that against you to take your children away. If they're saying you've neglected, then they should take you to court to prove it, and then decide what they do with the children, not base it on the social workers.
When you give evidence to the solicitor, they'll tell you, oh, keep it for after the proceedings. This is your care proceedings. Nobody wants to hear all this evidence. Wait until after and file a complaint, which should never even use
too late then.
Yeah, it's far too late then.
Yeah.
I think what's that? I'm currently fighting them at the moment. They have been in and out of my life 17 years. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Kerry. It is terrible. They do. I know somebody put up there. They go after your children, then they go after your children's children, and that's their intention, isn't it?
Someone said there it's based upon probability. 51% is all they need. Probability. That wasn't facts that took the children. It's just probability. 51% is enough. It's just really.
I wonder what the percentage of probability is that they get abused in the care system.
Yeah, she lying and manipulating. She was lying even to get that 51% to take them. It's all lies based not truths.
Yeah. Good on you, Sam. Tell it like it is. About time. It was horrific what they did to you. That's Louise.
That's my friend. She was with us on the day it happened. She took us. She's seen everything. Hi, Louise.
Yeah. So many stories. They use the same procedure, don't they? This is why people can what's the word I'm looking for here? It sits with them so well because they know the process, because when they've been through it, it's like, yeah, how can they just keep getting away with that? It's like you can read them like a book, because when you've heard so many stories, it's a pattern of behavior. So I can only assume that they're now being trained to do that, you know, go in there, break the parents down, break the relationship up, you know. My daughter has been abused. Yeah, see, the probability of abuse in care is much higher than that crystal ball they use against the parents. So I think Katie, sorry girls, if they have your children now, it will be very hard to get them back, but always go for access. Yeah. And that's all you can do, isn't it? And this is why I keep saying about building up family relations. Somebody said, who can you trust? You've got to, if you're struggling with mental health problems, with drug problems, whatever it is, you've just got to be honest with yourself and with the people around you that, you know, will care about you. Yeah, they might judge you for a little while, but when you reach out to help from the right people, you usually get the help you need. And I think more groups like the ones that you're involved with, where people can go, because they're the volunteers that have been through it, that don't want other people to go through the same thing. And so it's from the heart, isn't it? It's people who really care about children. They're not doing it for the money. They're doing it for the community and the family. So I think Katie wanted to play something at the end. Are you there, Katie Jane?
Yeah, give me a sec, I'll put it up. If you don't want to watch it, like, you don't have to watch it. That's not a problem. It's a couple of minutes put together by one of our other admin. 6 minutes. It's different clips involving social services to try. I've just realised my camera's not on. Sorry, I was writing close anyway. Hi. Yeah, it's a lot of random clips about social services, but it does make an impact, and we've had a lot of response off it and everything. And I mean, if you guys are all right with us playing it quickly,
yeah, of course.
No, it's right. Well, it won't be a second. It'll pop up on the screen. Just give us a thumbs up when you're ready for me to play it.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, social services in the UK have come under fire for forcibly taking children from their parents for seemingly minor reasons. Care workers insist they are always putting the best interests of the children first, but families say they're needlessly broken up, and critics claim the system is all wrong. RT's Laura.
More than 2,500 children were forcibly adopted in the UK last year by social services. It's a controversial practice that's facing widespread criticism at home and abroad.
In every moment, I withhold nothing. I'm learning to trust you, even when I can't see it. And even in sorrow.
Step back for me, please. Step back. Okay, step back out of the room. You can still see what's going on. Okay, step back.
You say it's wrong.
Okay, step back. You can see what's going on from where you are. Okay.
If you're in it with me, I'll begin. And when you say to jump, I'm driving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. I don't want to follow my own ways. I'm done chasing feelings.
Walk past me at that time.
Oh, spirit, it felt like a burden. Oh, it's like a crash.
Living at night, took them out.
Further than I was.
Heartbreaking, isn't it?
I should
My life is a no. If you say to jump, I'm diving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. Teach me how to follow in your way. I'm done chasing feelings. Oh, Spirit.
No.
After again
Spirit, lead me.
that he was under his oath,
When all hope is gone.
that all of a sudden, due to my concealment of pregnancy, that they were falsely
All hope is gone. And the word is all I've got. I have to believe
No,
you still bring
No.
water from the rock.
I am a breastfeeding mother.
Satisfy my thirst.
No,
Let me at my word.
and the rest of my
And
dreams.
even when I don't remember, you remind me of my word. I don't trust my ways. I'm trading in my faults. I lay down everything, 'cause you're all that I want. I've landed on my knees. This is the cup you have for me. And even when it don't make sense, I'm gonna let your spirit I'm gonna let your spirit lead.
Why are you taking my stuff? Why?
If you say release, I'm letting go. If you're in it with me, I'll be there. When you say to jump, I'm diving in. If you say be still, then I will wait. If you say to trust, I will obey. You're the only truth, the life, the way. I'm not chasing feelings.
Can I just say the police are disgusting in this process? That they couldn't do it without the police's help, and they come mob-handed.
Shocking. That's what happened to my children. The police took them away crying, forced them in
It's
their car.
terrible. They couldn't do it without the police helping them like that, and I don't know how they sleep at night. I really don't know why they work for the council like they do.
Yeah, they put me outside and had the kids in, and they just escorted them to the cars, crying their eyes out. The police just did it. So wrong. Terrible.
I mean, it's a good job kids are resilient, but at the end of the day, it just there's no words, is there? Really, it's evil, absolute evil.
Never seen anyone crying bad. It was like really terrible what happened.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'd just like to thank you, ladies, so much for coming on. I'm glad I got Sam on, because I know you didn't want to come on your own, but I'm glad you've hooked up with Elaine and you can talk about things. You've got somebody else, that understands what you've gone through and everything else. And that's key to it, isn't it? Having people that can listen and just talk you through it. I'll talk.
Yeah. So there's a lot of
See,
the
not
same
many
stories.
people understand. They think that you're talking crap or it's exaggerated or anything like that, but it's really, really not. And it's only when you meet people that's been through it that them understand what you're going through. Yeah.
Yeah. And people can get in touch with you through the United Survivors, can't they?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I just wanted to put in. I wanted to apologise for that because that even triggered me. So I have to apologise.
I know. I was fighting them back, to be fair, because when I hear them kids screaming, honestly, it breaks my heart.
Last clip broke me. Completely not broke me. So I do apologise for that because it is fucking triggering, and it is a really hard watch. And it, you know, you guys are probably sat there reliving it like I am, you know, and especially watching it. So you know, but people need to see what we went through. They need to feel what we went through, and the only way of making people feel what we went through is by showing them what our kids went through. And I wasn't strong enough to pull out a camera and record it when it was happening to me because I was embarrassed and ashamed that, you know, they even thought my kids needed removing in the first place. So, sorry, but I just wanted to apologise for that because it is a very triggering video. But, you know, props to the admin that put that together because, yeah, it's hard. It is hard.
I'm gonna change the subject slightly here because Kate Jane's been selling raffle tickets for the Christmas raffle. There's loads of good stuff to be won. And if anybody wants to buy any raffle tickets, they're £1 a piece. You can get in touch with Katie on Children Matter. And if you put Binksy 2020 on your email or your message, then you'll get 2 for the price of 1. So get buying your raffle tickets, folks. It's all for a good cause.
Yeah, I need that.
Do you want to add anything to that, Katie, about who to get in touch with? And
sorry, I'm still trying to pull myself together.
That's why I've changed the subject.
Well, yeah, we're trying to basically help everyone get as much stuff as they can and raise awareness as much as possible. So the logos have got on it End Forced Adoption, and you know the logos have been a massive stepping stone into introducing people to what forced adoption is. So to try and bring everyone together, create a community, we're doing a raffle. So we're doing a raffle for kids stuff, so kids can win their own bits as well. And then we've got a raffle for all the grown-ups on New Year's Day. So we've got 14 prizes up for grabs on our list, and then we've had 14 prizes also donated as well. So we have got a hell of a lot of prizes going, and yeah, but at this rate, everyone's going to get something with, you know, prizes left to spare. So, you know, get them while you can. And with Sharon's offer, with the Binksy 20 or Binksy 2020, whichever one it was, I can't remember now, on it, you know, and I'll get you 2 for 1 as well. So, you know, you can get involved and enjoy. So, yeah, you'll be able to email us at support@childrenmatter.news to get through to it. Or if you're in contact with me or Sharon, I'm sure Sharon will be able to help you out as well. She'll put you directly in touch and we can sort it out that way. So,
yeah.
And the other thing is, talking about the merchandise that you've got in some of the prizes, you girls at United Survivors have got merchandise as well. And Katie's got a page
I will
that
get
you
it
can
up.
share that on.
I'll get it up. What I've been doing to try and... Oh, sorry. I'll let you talk, Sharon. I'll get it up.
I was just going to say, so that you can get people wearing the hoodies or the T-shirts or whatever message they want from these groups. United Survivors, Children
I like
Matter.
that design. I really like that design.
It's great. They've got some good stuff, Katie Jen. They need to. I think Kerry Lee's working on it now. She was going to put some stuff together.
If you've got links, what I've been doing is to try and, you know, put everything in one place, bring people together, help people out, sort of thing. Is any of their links we've been putting on here. So Michael Tarriger's got 3 books. I don't know if you're aware of him. He's a child abuse survivor of the care system. So all of his books are on there, all his links. So we've got hoodies, jackets, T-shirts, you know, we've got kids stuff as well, whatnot. But on them, we've not...
I was just going to say, any group that's got merchandise, that, you know, it's as much about getting people wearing the merchandise to get the message out there. It's just another way of getting the message out there.
Not all these designs are Children Matter. Some of these designs are made up by other groups, so all those links go directly to them. The only thing that Children Matter does is advertise their links and a picture of the item. Like we've got, if I scroll down, these two that are on the screen, they're not designed by Children Matter, so we get absolutely nothing from any of them, which, you know, we're not fussed about because it's not about money, it's about awareness and working together. We've got a PTSD camp as well. So we've even got a Children Matter, supporting the PTSD camp. That goes to the PTSD camp. All them links, that goes directly to them. So that has absolutely nothing to do with us at Children Matter apart from advertising it. It's literally all we're interested in doing. The only interest we've got in it is literally helping everyone get their message out. So you can even put a little message on every one of your links if you wanted to, like an individual message from yourselves, and then it's just your links. So even if we can help in that way, we're more than happy to help in any way we can do.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know that a lot of the girls with United Survivors, because they are working with survivors, they've all been through something. They use therapy and music therapy and other things, don't they? They're looking at the kind of positive aspect of bringing people up. And, you know, I think that's what a lot of the groups are doing. They try to look at a therapeutic route for these, because it's not only veterans that get PTSD. Parents like yourselves get PTSD. It's a traumatic experience and you can't just get over it. And it's going to hit you and hit you and hit you. And, you know, and when you least expect it, because that's what PTSD does. But then, you know, they treat you like you've got some mental health problem for it. But again, there's no help out there. There's no proper therapies for it. So these groups, these girls are all starting up and offering that sort of thing. You know, you need to follow them. You need to get involved. If you can offer any therapeutic interventions for these parents, these families, even the children that's been through it, come forward, come to any of the groups in your area if there's one, and volunteer, offer your services, take part. You know, we're all trying to do our bit. So if you want to get involved, there's groups up and down the country now.
I'm teaching guitar and singing lessons and drum and songwriting. I was on Stars in Her Eyes, Belinda Carlisle. I've had 5 #1 dance chart hits over Europe, and I've been in the recording studio yesterday and making new albums. Trying to encourage people to try and get out of the sadness of, like, to have something purpose in life, to do some skill or even drama. We could teach them all something to try and give them something to look forward to. Yeah, help them.
You what was I going to say? Have you got a YouTube channel now, Elaine, or are you just putting it on Facebook? Because I was going to say, if people want to see some of your videos with you singing and everything, they're on Facebook. Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember it because I use Facebook more. I think it's just Elaine Rennie on the YouTube. But my Facebook's Elaine M for Margaret, Elaine M Rennie. I put more on Facebook, it's Elaine M Rennie. But the YouTube's got a few things. I think it's just Elaine Rennie on my YouTube name.
And some of the stuff's on United Survivors Northeast page as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Survivors. And Kerry Lee, she's made all these great designs, and she's made some new hoodies now. I was at her house today. She's made a lot of things. And she's constantly working, making new things, new ideas. She's really good, actually. She should have her own shop. So if anyone wants to order from her, she's very impressed. I'm so impressed with what she makes. It's amazing. She's got a
I've already I spoke to Kerry Lee and I said if she wants to advertise on the page, just to send the links over. Like you say, if anybody's interested, get in touch with her directly, not Children Matter, but it'll be on the Children Matter as well if she wants to get them out there a little bit wider afield. But yeah, thank you very much, ladies. And it's been good talking to you. You take care.
Yeah,
you too. See you later.
So much. See you soon.
Have a good day tomorrow for the demo. I'll be thinking about you.
Yeah, thank you.
In good voice, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll sing away. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Watching. Well, we've gone. I was just saying thank you everybody for watching and commenting. It's been great. Thanks for your support.